Hello, today I'm finally doing a video that I've been putting off for a very long time, and it is part one of my book haul. So because I returned to BookTube in September, I obviously didn't show you the books that I got this year so far, but for some reason I just want to show them to you. So I'm doing it, but because of quite a lot, there's going to be quite a few parts to this book haul if I actually go through with it. So in this first one, also apologise if you can hear the rain and my cat playing. I can't control either of those things. But anyway, so in this first book haul, part one, I'm going to be showing you the 10 books that I got recently in Milton Keynes because they're new and I want to talk about them. And then also I went back in time and started basically from the beginning. So I've got a selection of I think 15 books that I got at the beginning of the year and just show them to you. Well, apart from the last 4 in the stack, they've been more recent, but they were on the top of the shelf. It kind of makes sense in my head how I'm doing it. But I think I will do Kindle book haul as well at some point and just show them all in one video, hopefully, even though I'm gonna hate editing it. But I think that's the plan. I don't know if all of them will come out before the end of the year. Unlikely. I'd like them to, because to like wrap up the year and whatnot, but considering I'm doing reading vlogs and then we'll be doing wrap-ups and yeah and there will be a box of stories as well, so I don't know if that's possible. We'll see. Plus December is a busy month anyway. Also, I'm not going to be including the books that I've talked about in any of my previous videos. So if it was in a wrap-up, if it was mentioned in a TBR or whatever, if I've mentioned the book, I'm not going to be putting it on here, because without those books I've got so many anyway to talk to you about. So I just don't want to add even more to the list when you've already seen them. So that being said, let's get started. I'm also really hoping that the lighting works okay, because I'm using my ring light because it's well, pitch black outside now and raining, so but I wanted to film the video, so I'm doing it now. Anyway, like I said, we're going to start with the most recent books. So yeah, like I said, we went to Milton Keynes the other day and I got quite a few books from there. I got 10 in fact, and I'm going to show them to you. So the first one at the top of my stack is Invisible Kitties by Yu Yo. I was drawn to the cover, not gonna lie, because obviously it's cats and it's also signed, but look at the signature. I hope it's gonna focus. It's got the cats, it's so adorable, and it does have illustrations throughout the book as well, so it looks like one of those cute types of books. I've looked on ratings on Goodreads. It doesn't have the highest rating, but I'm excited. I think it's just going to be one of those books that is almost like a slice of life of this young couple who adopt a kitten, and the kitten changes their lives in one way or another, or doesn't change their lives. Well, it will change their lives. So I'm looking forward to it. I do think it's going to be quite a nice and cozy book, hopefully. Then I got the book I've never seen before, Fang Fiction by Kate Stayman London. This is an interesting cover, and I'm pretty sure this is like a romantasy book. So the main character is really into books about vampires. She's obsessed with them, and I believe she somehow manages to go into the world of either one of the novels or just generic sort of world, which is like an island, and I'm pretty sure there's always dark in there and it's full of vampires, and she falls for one. So it sounds really intriguing to me. I do enjoy stories about vampires, and I'm getting into romantasy or romantic fantasy a little bit more, so I'm tempted to read more from the genre, and this is one of them, so I'm looking forward to reading this. Another one I'm really excited about because it's by one of my favourite authors, and that is The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden, and this is one of her newest releases. I didn't even need to know what this book was about. I just literally saw it and grabbed it. To be fair with her books, now if I just see something I don't own by her, or something I have read by her but don't have the physical copy, I'll just go and get it, because I want to collect all of her books and I've got quite a few, by the way, so I have mentioned her in one of my previous videos, otherwise I would have shown you 8 more books by her that I got. But yes, this one is basically about the boyfriend who seems to be really perfect, everything's perfect about him, but there seem to be women, a few women, one by one getting killed, and our main character is getting suspicious of her boyfriend. Sounds intriguing. I know it's going to be great because she is amazing at writing books and twists and turns and suspense and everything. I love her books, so I know this is going to be a good one. Next I've got, I believe, a gothic romantic fantasy or romantasy, and that is Gothic Hannah by Runix? I'm not sure. Sorry for the reflection. The French cover is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. I'll try to put up the picture. I wanted a book in that cover, but unfortunately Waterstones didn't have that, and I'm not sure if it's a hardcover cover in the UK as well, but I just got the paperback because it was there. In this book, our main character gets an acceptance letter that she can go to a fancy school, I believe, or university, which is like on the top of a mountain, and it's a really gothic, cool building, but it's full of secrets, and students keep going either killed or missing. And one day she comes across this professor, and I guess they might fall in love, but the both of them are trying to figure out what's going on and stuff like that. So it sounds like it's going to be really atmospheric and really interesting. And I do enjoy books that are set in like, I want to say like a house, but this is not a house, but you know what I mean, like gothic atmosphere is what I'm hoping for, because the name also suggests that it's going to be gothic and atmospheric, so that's what I'm hoping for. Then we've got The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor. Again, this is the author, I'm pretty sure I'll mention actually their books before, rather later, because I have bought a few books by this author this year, but I'll mention them in later videos. But anyway, this is, I read The Drift by this author. Did I mention this author? I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever mentioned the author. No, I don't think I have. If I have, then I apologise. But anyway, I read The Drift by the author and really enjoyed it, and now I've got quite a few books by this author that I haven't read. I'm pretty sure I talked about them before. But anyway, I don't think I spoke about this book because I just bought it. So, The Burning Girls. I'll just read you the 3 sentences from the top. 500 years ago, 8 martyrs burned. 30 years ago, 2 teenagers vanished. 2 months ago, a vicar died mysteriously. And then other 3 messages. Why did no one say the last vicar killed himself? Why is Flo plagued by visions of burning girls? And who is sending them threatening messages? I'm excited, and I think it'll be quite a good book, hopefully. So I feel like I've not explained it really well, but I think I've told you everything you sort of need to know, because I don't really know anything about it. I'm just looking forward to it. Then I've got the book that I've seen quite a few times, and I thought it had a high rating on Goodreads, but it actually doesn't. But it's a horror book, and that is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. And I believe this follows different generations, and each of their generations is being haunted by a ghost, potentially a ghost of a deer, because some of the ancestors killed the deer and now they're being haunted. I think that's how I understand it, at least. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm just dabbling into horror a little bit more, although so far I've tried like gothic horror or atmospheric horror. I haven't tried many other versions of it, so this is just going to be another one of those. And I am looking forward to it, although I'm slightly scared, because I have heard things that it's actually quite scary, I think. But it's on my TBR. I've got another horror. Whoa! Dropped the book. I've got another horror, The Dark by James Herbert. I've never heard of this book before. I've never seen anyone talk about it, but it just sounds really intriguing. I'm just going to read you the blurb because it sounds bizarre. It's quite a short one. It came like a malignant shadow with seductive promises of power, and somewhere in the night a small girl smiled as her mother burned. Asylum inmates slaughtered their attendants. In slimy tunnels once human creatures gathered. Madness raged as the lights began to fade, and humanity was attacked by an ancient unstoppable evil. I don't know if this will turn out to be the book for me because I don't like weird books, but I'm intrigued, I must admit. I'm really intrigued by it. It just sounds scary. So, yet another horror. That is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. As you've seen probably if you have watched my videos before, I had not the best luck with Horrorstall, but I really enjoyed the Southern Book Club's guide to slaying vampires. It was really atmospheric horror, but I've heard even better things about this one. I've never been interested in it before, to be fair, but now after reading that other book that I mentioned, I just really want to read this one too. So this story follows two friends, and I think at night at one point they both just went skinny dipping in a lake, and one of the friends now starts to act really weird. That's all I know. And I know it's definitely like in the 80s potentially, because you can see by the cover. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what this book is about, and I'm the last person on earth to read it, but I'm still looking forward to it, and hopefully it's going to be as good as the book club, just slaying vampires. So yeah, then I've got the book by the author that I mentioned before, but it's a new one to me, The Darkness Within Us by Tricia Levenseller. I'm not the biggest fan of these covers, but when I see them, I just buy them. Also, this is, I believe, a sequel to The Shadows Between Us. It's got a map as well, which I read a little while ago, a couple of years ago I think now, and gave it 5 stars. I didn't even know that there was going to be a sequel to it, so now I have it. It does not match my edition of the first book, but oh well. Yeah, like, look at my edition of The Shadows Between Us. Sorry for the reflection. They really don't match, but like I said, when I see a book, even if it's not in the edition that I want, I just want it there and then. So I won't tell you what this book is about, but I think it follows a different character. I can tell you the plot of the first one. So there is a sassy main character who is, I think she wants to woo the king, the Shadow King, because she wants the kingdom for herself, and then she wants to kill him. But it's a romantic fantasy, and I enjoyed the first book. It was really funny. I do like the writing style of Tricia Levenseller because it's always funny, the sassy characters, the humour, the tension between the characters. I love her books. I've read quite a few by her so far, but I'm looking forward to this one as well. But like I said, I think it follows a different character, but I can't tell you who because I don't remember if that person is mentioned in the first book, but I'm pretty sure it's related somehow to the first one, so it sort of follows on from the ending of the first one. But yeah, there we go. And the last one of the new ones from Milton Keynes I got is a really pretty one, I think. All the Devils by Caitlin Wilson, and this is like an exclusive Waterstones edition because it's all black sprayed edges, which I love. On the inside it's got moths, and it's just black on the, so it's fully black, and I just love the sound of it. So again, it's like a, I guess you can call it like maybe dark academia even-ish. Not fully, but I think it's a fantasy dark academia type of thing. I believe this book starts with a funeral of the main character's sister, but when she goes to see the coffin, she can tell that it's not her sister that's in there. So then she realizes that her sister is still alive, and she wants to find out what's happened to her sister. So she goes back to school, where everything again seems to be really like scary and some dodgy things going on. And she also receives a really cryptic message from her sister. That's all I need to know. It sounds interesting, and I'm not gonna lie, I was drawn to by the cover as well. But yeah, we'll see what comes out of this one. These are all of the newest books. Now let's go through the 15 books that I've accumulated from the beginning of the year. I won't give you too much detail about every one of them because otherwise it will be too long a video, and I don't want that to happen. I'm just gonna go with them how they're standing in the stack here. So the first one I've got is actually from a charity shop. Is The Coffin Maker's Garden by Stuart McBride, and I think this is like book number 5 or 6 in the series, but it just sounded interesting and it was like for £2, so I thought I'd try it anyway. We've got a person who lives on the cliff, and the house starts to sort of slide down to the sea, But the problem is, the house, or around the house, is where he buried the bodies of people who he killed. And obviously there's going to be an investigation about it. It just sounds really fascinating to me, the fascinating concept. Even though I know it's not the first book in a series, I'm going to try it and see. And if I enjoy it, I could buy the rest of the series and then reread this at some point. Because I think with thrillers, quite often, you don't need to read them in order. So I'm hoping this is the case. I got another one as well. I think the three here, the first three I bought them on the same day, pretty sure. So it is also The Interpretation of Murder by Jed Rubenfeld. This one sounds intriguing. So we've got Sigmund Freud and somebody else he's working with. They basically go to the United States, and in one of the houses they find a girl who is tied to a chandelier in her parents' home, and she is wounded and unable to speak or to recall what's happened to her. So now they're trying to sort of get her memory back and see what's happened, and go, like, I think it's going to be potentially discovering what was in the person's mind, basically what was behind it. I'm really intrigued by this concept, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Then I have another book that I don't think is the first in the series, but again it was for £1 or £2, so I didn't mind it. I think I got them from a second-hand bookshop in one of the what's it called? National Trust places, that's it. So I've got Cold Kill by PJ Tracy. I'm going to read you the blurb because I feel like I'm not going to give it enough justice if I just tell you about this. So, 2 dead bodies. On a cold Minneapolis winter's night, 2 friends are brutally killed on opposite sides of the city. To homicide detective Gino and Magosi, it's clear that the men were targets. But why? A decades-old conspiracy. As CCTV footage suddenly vanishes and websites disappear before their eyes, the pair turn to computer analyst Grace McBride. With her help, they uncover the origins of this case, stretching back 60 years. A deadly attack that could bring a city to its knees. Now something that has Ian dormant is finally awakening, and Gino, Magosi and Grace must race to find who is behind it before a devastating horror is unleashed. I don't know if it's like horror, crime horror, just says fiction, but I'm intrigued by the concept, and again, because it's £1, I am tempted to try it. And again, if I like it, I could buy the rest of the series. So, okay, next one is a little bit different, but it is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I've never read anything by this author, and I've been tempted to try something because everyone raves about her books, but I thought I'd try with something different. I thought I'd try with her dabble into paranormal romance. I don't know a lot about it. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think it's pretty damn obvious though. So the main character is a vampire, and I think she's fallen in love with the werewolf, but obviously it's going to bring loads of different, like, intrigue, potentially like political stuff. I don't know what to expect because I've never read anything, and I know it's not the most beloved book by people who've read her other books, but like I said, I'm tempted to try, and I think it was in Sainsbury's, cheaper than it usually would be, so I grabbed it and thought I'd give it a go because I am getting more into romance, especially like fantasy romance. So I'm gonna try it and see if this author is for me. If she is, then I'll buy more of her books in the future. If not, then fair enough, it wouldn't be for me. Next one is Homecoming by Kate Morton, and I've got a kind of interesting-ish story with this book. So I thought Kate Morton was one of the authors that I was really interested in and wanted to read all of her books, because I really enjoyed The House at Riverton when I read it a few years ago. Then I tried to read The Lake House and I DNF'd that one. It was just very slow going. I was bored. So now I'm not sure if I want to read this one. Hopefully this is better. But I bought it obviously before I DNF'd that one because it was a new release. I'm pretty sure from this year, maybe last year, I'm not 100% sure. They're quite thick books as well. But they're usually like dual timeline. Something bad happens in the past and now it's uncovered in the present, and it sort of goes back and forth and we find out more. But I need to tell you more about the plot of this book. In this book, the timelines are 1959, so there's been discovered a most baffling murder, And the current present storyline is 2018, where we've got the main character who is a journalist, and she is summoned back to Sydney to her grandmother because she's taken the fall. And there she finds a non-fiction book, true crime book, chronicling a long-buried police case, what happened in 1959, and there she finds personal connections to this case. So it does sound intriguing. I'm just hoping it's not going to be boring. I'm sorry to anyone who loves her, but I was burned by the previous book that I read, so I'm hoping this is going to be good. I still want to read it because now, having read the blurb, I'm actually intrigued again, so there is that. Then I've got the book that I've completely forgotten what it's about, but again, it was one of the cases when Sainsbury's sell it for cheaper. So that is The Trial by Rob Rinder. It's called Sprayed Edges. When hero policeman Grant Cliveden dives from poisoning in the Old Bailey, it threatens to shake the country to its core. The evidence points to one man. Jimmy Knight has been convicted of multiple offences before, and defending him will be not an easy task. Not least because this is the trainee barrister Adam Green's first case. But it will quickly become clear that Jimmy Knight is not the only person in Cliveden's past with an axe to grind. The one thing that's certain is that this is a trial which will push Adam and the justice system itself to the limit. I do like crimey books. I've never read like a case? Like a court case book before though, so that will be quite interesting. But I'm very intrigued. Then I've got None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I have sort of DNF'd a book by this author before, Family Upstairs or something like that. No, not Family Upstairs, the first book in the series, but because I listened to it as an audiobook and I was halfway through when I decided to DNF it, it was just not doing it for me. But again, it probably is to the fault of the audiobook, because it was at the time when I sort of went off audiobooks, as I do. So I don't blame the author for that. So I might even try and listen to it from the beginning just to give it a chance, because her books that I have seen so far do always sound really intriguing and interesting to me. So I don't want to just dismiss them. And this one I was also intrigued, but now I can't remember what it's about. This book is about these two women who meet up, and it turns out they're birthday twins. So one of the women is actually a podcaster, and she wants the other twin, to talk about her past. She agrees to it, but she realizes that her past is rather strange and complicated, and the podcaster is becoming a little bit unsettled, but she just wants to keep digging and finds out all the dark secrets. Do you know what? Again, this is good to do this book haul, because reading these blurbs makes me really makes me want to read all of these books again. So that's a good thing, because I genuinely forgot what this book was about. It's just sat on my shelf and I'm not sure what it's about. But now I've read it, the blurb, and want to read it because it does sound really good. Then I've got Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I would have shown also The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, but I've mentioned that book before, so I'm not showing that one. But this one I have never mentioned, and again I forgot what this one is about. I'm sorry, I didn't want to read the blurbs, but I feel like in this case I'm gonna have to do it again, because I won't be able to explain it as fascinating as the back of the book. So, welcome to Mexico City, an oasis in a sea of vampires. Domingo, a lonely garbage collecting street kid, is just trying to survive its heavily policed streets when a vampire on the run swoops into his life. Atul, the descendant of Aztec blood drinkers, is smart, beautiful and dangerous. Domingo is mesmerized. Atul needs to escape the city and the rival narco-vampire clan pursuing her. Her plan doesn't include Domingo, but she finds herself warming to the scrappy young man and his undeniable charm. As a trail of corpses stretches behind her, local cops and crime bosses start closing in. Atul and Domingo stand little chance of making it out alive before the city devours them, but they are determined to try. Again, reading this blurb makes me want to read this book like right now. I love stories about vampires, and it sounds like it's going to be a humorous book. Oh my god, the font is tiny! Well, that would be interesting, but I'm intrigued. Like I said, I haven't heard many people talk about this book. I've seen people talk about Mexican Gothic, which I have read and really enjoyed, and The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, which I haven't read. It's still on my TBR, as well as this one. But I think I'm actually much more intrigued by this book than Daughter of Dr. Moreau. So now I really want to read it. Then I've got another horror book, and that is The House at Phantom Park by Graham Masterton. It was one of those cases when Amazon sends the email daily and I look into it, and it was one of the books that I just thought was really interesting, so I bought it. Again, I've read the blurb and want to read this like right now. So in this book there's this house, the building, which was a hospital, but now I believe they want to demolish it and make a different building, a luxury housing complex. But as the work started, they start hearing like blood-curdling screams, and there seem to be faces peering at them from like empty beds, so clearly haunted. And that's all I need to know. It sounds interesting. I do enjoy a good ghost story if it's written well. So when I'm in the mood for a horror, this could be the one, as one of the many options. Then I've got On the Nature of Magic by Marianne Womack. I'm not actually sure if it's the second book in a series. It actually might be, but I think you can read them separately. I'm not sure. I've also seen the rating on Goodreads, and it's not a good one. It's really low, which makes me less excited to read the book, but I'm also hoping that I can read it without having read the first one, because I have no desire to buy the first one, to be honest, after seeing the reviews. I know I shouldn't rely on reviews and I should make my own opinion, but again though, it sounds intriguing. I don't know if it's a sequel and you don't want to read the sequel. I'm going to read the blurb, so if you don't want to get spoiled, please go until the next book. But 1902, Helena Walton Kisners, known for finding answers to the impossible, has started her own detective agency. The agency's first uncanny cases are both located in Paris, itself too much of a coincidence to ignore. I have been to Paris and I now want to read books that are set in Paris, so that's good. Even though I bought this one way before Paris. First, 2 English women claim to have seen the ghost of Marie Antoinette in the gardens of Versailles. I've been there as well. It's a great place, absolutely stunning. Then the young woman working in the mysterious Mill Star Film studio has disappeared. As Helena and her colleague Eliza investigate, they uncover vanishings, impossible illusions, demons in the catacombs, and connections to the occult. To find the thread that connects the cases, Helena and Eliza must accept the natural world is darker, stranger than they could have ever imagined. It sounds good, so I'm not sure why the ratings are so low. But now again I'm intrigued, so I'm going to read this anyway. I've only got 5 books left. So the next one is The Clockwork Girl by Anna Mazzola. It's a kind of really pretty cover, and I don't remember what this one is about either. I'm going to read you the blurb. I'm really sorry. Paris, 1750. In the midst of an icy winter, as birds fall frozen from the sky, chambermaid Madeleine Chastel arrives at the home of the city's celebrated clockmaker and his clever and worldly daughter. Madeleine is hiding a dark past and a dangerous purpose to discover the truth of the clockmaker's experiments and record his every move in exchange for her own chance of freedom. For as children quietly vanish from the Parisian streets, rumours are swirling that the clockmaker's intricate mechanical creations, bejewelled birds and silver spiders, are more than they seem. And soon Madeleine fears that she has stumbled upon an even greater conspiracy, one which might reach the very heart of Versailles. Again, Paris, Versailles. Do you know what? Again, honestly, this sounds amazing to me. This sounds really good. Sounds really interesting. The historical setting, the Paris setting, the slightly eerie sort of atmosphere, and the what's going on. Sounds so good. I kind of want to read this one right now, but I won't. Another one I believe is another horror, which I haven't actually heard great things about, but wanted to read it anyway. And that is The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I think I haven't heard great things about it. This book just sounds really bizarre. I wanted to explain to you myself what it's about, but I can't. Again, I'm sorry. 7-year-old Gwen and her parents, Eric and Andrew, are vacationing at a remote cabin on a quiet New Hampshire lake, with their closest neighbours more than 2 miles in either direction. As Gwen catches grasshoppers in the front yard A stranger unexpectedly appears in the driveway. Leonard is the largest man Wen has ever seen, but he's young and friendly. Leonard and Wen talk and play until Leonard abruptly apologizes and tells Wen, "None of what's going to happen is your fault." 3 more strangers arrive at the cabin carrying unidentifiable, menacing objects. As Wen sprints inside to warn her parents, Leonard calls out, "Your dad won't want to let us in, Wen, but they have to. We need your help to save the world." So begins an unbearably tense, gripping tale of paranoia, sacrifice, apocalypse, and survival that escalates to a shattering conclusion, one in which the fate of a loving family and quite possibly all of humanity are intertwined. It sounds really bizarre, but again, I'm intrigued. So we'll see what I think of it when I eventually get to it. 3 more books. So I've got this book that I got for my birthday from a colleague at work, and somehow she managed to get it for me without duplicating what I already have. It is Feybound by Sarah L. Arifi. I have seen this book quite a few times, but it is a romantic fantasy, and I'm actually quite intrigued by this one. Again, I am starting to dabble more into this genre, and I wouldn't mind reading more of them, even though I've got a few now on my TBR. But again, this one sounds really good. We've got our main character, who is a warrior in an army, and she thinks she's gonna die on the battlefield. But her sister, a diviner, seeks prophecies of a better future. And then there's a fatal mistake that leads both of them to the exile from the lands, and they're forced to go to the wilderness, and that's when they discover the Fate Court. But it looks like they're gonna fall in love, and that potentially could cause problems for their friendship, or wait, they're sisters. Well, yeah, so it sounds really good. So whether they're going to choose each other or whether they're going to choose their love interests, it does sound interesting, and I'm impressed that she managed to pick a book that I don't already own, which is quite an achievement, I must admit. So, but yes, I'm looking forward to it. I always like getting new books anyway, as you probably have guessed by now. And the last 2 books, they are not in the order from the beginning of the year, by the way. So this book was bought in September for me, and these 2 also were bought in September, also kind of for my birthday, because I got them in Norway. So it's these 2. They are kind of non-fiction, I suppose. Depends on how you look at it. But one of them is Nordic Tales, and that's folk tales from Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, and Denmark. And it's really pretty. I just wanted to get a book from Norway, so I've chosen this one. It's really prettily illustrated. Ooh. The boy who did not know what fear was. That sounds absolutely fascinating. So I loved being in Norway. Absolutely loved it. It's a beautiful place. It's amazing. And obviously I want to read more of Nordic Tales. So this book is going to be read at some point. And I also bought Ghostly Tales, spine-chilling stories of the Victorian age. I really like the cover. I'm hoping the camera is focusing enough for you to see, but I really like it. Oh, I've got the receipt there, all in Norwegian. I don't speak Norwegian, I can read it, but oh my god, nostalgic. It's really pretty here. And again, illustrations. They're not just at the beginning of the book. They happen, I think, every now and then anyway. Or is it just the beginning of the book? I'm not sure, but either way, I like ghostly tales, especially of the past. And it's just a really pretty edition. So, and both of them, because I bought them in Norway, they are special to me. So, yeah, that is it. I've been filming for 47 minutes. So it's a good thing that I'm not showing you any more books that I got so far. But I'm hoping that there's going to be part 2, maybe part 3. I don't know how many parts they're going to be, but I've been dreading filming this video, but I've actually quite enjoyed doing it in the end, because it did remind me of how many great books I've got on my TBR, and considering how many more I've got on my TBR, it just puts me in a reading mood, and I just want to read all of them. So again, it just makes me happy to talk about the books that I have, the books that I've bought. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!